Hey guys!
Hello friends!
In our last video we've showed you an accident that happened to me
and the importance of soft dynamic belaying.
So if you haven't seen it, go and watch it first. We received a lot of good comments all over the internet with some really good discussions. Thank you for that!
Mostly everybody agrees that soft catch is a good thing and in some situations even a must. But what about additional slack? Can additional slack reduce the speed of a swing or even the impact to the wall? And in general, is it a good thing to have more slack or is it a bad practice? Well, this is what many of you guys couldn't agree upon.
And this is what we are going to figure out in this video.
Hey nerd! How's the math going? And I think it's important to point out that additional slack and soft catch is not the same thing. There are many techniques to do a soft catch, but the most common one is to make a little hop, and that will slow down the stop of the fall. It's like pressing the car brakes ahead of time and slowly, compared to smashing on the brakes at the last moment.
And the additional slack is the extra rope which belayer leaves. This will of course make climber fall more.
Yeah, and by falling more, all the forces will be bigger, including the impact to the wall.
Yeah, but the more you fall, the smaller angle to the wall is. So the bigger part of the energy will be absorbed by the rope and less energy will be left to the horizontal movement.
Yes, so can falling more reduce the impact to the wall or the speed of swing, or the opposite will happen?
We asked our friend who studies physics in Cambridge to solve the simplified model of pendulum swing with a static rope.
We took into account that falling more will increase the energy and that part of the energy will be absorbed by the rope at the moment of impact, and then calculated the speed at the bottom of the swing. Here you can see 3 different cases where the distance to the anchor is fixed to a half meter, 1 meter and 3 meters. On the horizontal axis we have slack length, and on vertical axis speed at the bottom of the swing. The animation that you can see right now on the left is the exact representation of the graph on the right. You can clearly see that the bigger the fall is, the lower the speed at the bottom of the swing becomes. And this is true no matter what the initial horizontal distance to the anchor is. And another thing we can take a look at is horizontal distance traveled. You can see that the bigger the fall is, the longer horizontal distance traveled becomes, but the difference is pretty small, and it gets irrelevant if we reduce initial distance to the anchor.
All that is good, but what happens when the rope becomes dynamic, not static? Well, the math becomes pretty complicated with a lot of differential equations, or that type of goodness or badness depending on your skills of math and physics.
We found one good article, we will put the link in the description, where a German physicist was calculating rope swings and emulating the paths of the swings. But unfortunately that article didn't answer our question in particular about additional slack, and we couldn't reach that guy. So yeah, Bigel, if you're watching this video, please contact us.
And as we didn't want to spend months doing math or testing rope dynamics, we have decided to make another experiment.
Yeah. We rigged the rope swing with about 3 meter distance to the anchor and made a series of falls with increasing amount of slack. In the first fall I tried to make as hard catch as possible by tightening the rope as she fell. Our hypothesis was that this should be the worst case scenario and result into the highest speed at the bottom of the swing. In the second one I had about 1 meter of additional slack and everything else stayed the same. Also a note that in all of these falls I used very heavy backpack to prevent me from being pulled up. And the last fall was done with roughly 2 meters of slack. And here you can see yourself how the paths of 3 hard catches looks like. We can also take a look at the horizontal distance traveled, and we can see that it's very similar to the model with a static rope that we've showed you before. Okay, now the important part, the speeds. The blue fall reaches its top speed at the bottom of the swing, where the red and yellow ones are still far from that point. And what's more important is the speed at the bottom of the swing. So here you can see that falling more results in a slightly lower speed. What about 15 degrees overhanging wall? Here the difference is getting bigger because by falling more you're getting further away from the wall. And if we take a look at 30 degrees, the difference becomes very significant. Okay, time for round 2. We have repeated the same falls, but now with a dynamic catch. Of course, without the backpack. During the first fall with zero slack, I have noticed that it's extremely hard to time the jump correctly, because Day is too skinny to generate enough force to pull me up. The second fall again was done with approximately 1 meter of slack, and this time doing a soft catch was much easier, and as you can see resulted in a very smooth curve. And the final, the biggest fall.
Oh, it was so scary here. Oh man.
Let's compare the speeds at 90 degrees. And again we can see that falling more reduces the speed ever so slightly. We can also take a look at the difference between hard and soft catch. The number you can see on the right represents the speed at the bottom of a swing. So this is with no slack, 1 meter of slack, and 2 meters of slack. And all of them together. But that's not all, we have done more tests. With a friend who is similar weight to me. And with weights. And in all of these cases the pattern was the same. Having 1 to 2 meters of additional slack reduced the speed at the bottom of a swing by about 10%. And that's not a lot. But then we had an aha moment. Let's take a look at this graph again. If the initial distance to the anchor is 3 meters and we have 2 meters of additional slack, then how much of the speed is lost? To simplify this answer, let's convert this graph so that on vertical axis now we have speed reduction in percentage. And voila! The answer is 10%. And if the initial distance to the anchor would be 1 meter, same amount of slack would result in 30% of speed reduction. And in 0.5 meters case, it would cut the speed almost in half. But hey, how can we be sure it would actually happen in a real-world situation when the rope is dynamic? So the only way to figure out is to do a swing again. So we're doing this already third time. I hope you guys appreciate our effort. And you know what a like button is for, right? Right? And one more thing before you go. Do not start leaving loops of slack on the ground. Just wait for our follow-up video, we have more surprises. Yep, and as always...
Thanks for watching and keep those comments coming because we are trying to read all of them. And thank you for Justus and Ben who helped us to make this video, we really appreciate that. And see you in the next video.
Yeah,
bye
guys.